Today we have Susan Wranik, a Milwaukee native. She's a national speaker, educator, writer, and speech language pathologist in private practice in Maryland. She's a graduate of Georgetown University and the George Washington University. She treats speech, swallowing, and memory in the adult and older adult population with a special focus on Parkinson's disease. And I just think she's the best. Thanks for being here today.
Wow, no pressure. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Susan Wranik, as in Isn't It Ironic? And I believe Eden is going to share some slides. I have very few slides that I'm going to share with you. The only reason I put them up is because we're going to talk about the motor and the non-motor symptoms, which are extensive. And again, people who leave my programs always leave smiling and laughing, and I don't intend for this to be any different. So don't be unnerved by the fact that we're going to discuss the motor and the non-motor. The most important thing with a Parkinson's diagnosis, or any diagnosis for that matter, I think is dealing with it. I haven't had a Parkinson's diagnosis. I've had to wait for results on a cancer diagnosis. And, it's do you or don't you? And then the question is, what are you going to do if it is? Okay. So, with regard to Parkinson's, let's celebrate the fact that it is not fatal. You don't die from it. As the docs all say, you may die with it. We're all going to die from something, but you don't die from Parkinson's. It is inconvenient. There are ways to manage it, fortunately. And the most important thing, as I will explain, I have 3 or 4 stories that I'll share with you, and you can count them if you would like, is acceptance. It's important to accept so that you can embrace and you can move forward. You have to be all in. And by way of my first story, I'm going to tell you about one of my dear friends. Actually, he's the spouse of a dear friend of mine. She was trying to gather information for a friend. Unbeknownst to me, it was her husband. And then she finally said, it's Jeff. This gentleman was a radio broadcaster, a television broadcaster. He was very active in the media world. And you can imagine how difficult it was for him to realize that maybe he needed to think about stepping back. He's older, so he was ready to retire, maybe not exactly then, but he had to come to terms. He was in denial for a while. He wouldn't tune into anything that I was offering, any of the programs, until one day he did. And now he's a one-man PR company for me. But after he did that, he turned around and he looked inward and he said, "Now, what can I do to bring value?" So he started the first ever in 123 countries. I hope we're not called out for this. I'm not trying to promote anyone or anything, but he started a special group of Toastmasters. They're in 123 countries. He started the first one, the only one, that specializes in people who have movement challenges and speaking challenges and want to get back to being public speakers. It's not limited to Parkinson's. It's anybody who has special challenges and they really want to get out there and be back on their game. So the beauty of it is he brought value. He had to find a reason, he had to have purpose, and he found it. So with that, I'd like you, if you, Eden, if you would be kind enough, we're going to talk about the motor and the non-motor symptoms first of all. And I feel it's important that you know about these things because nobody has all of them. But I want you to know what's out there so that you don't think another wheel is falling off if something happens. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. The motor symptoms, the basic motor symptoms for diagnosis. And I won't spend a lot of time on this, I hope. I'll go as quickly as I can because we have a lot of fun material to cover. It's the slowness of movement, the bradykinesia, the rigidity, and the postural instability. Those are the 3 biggies that they generally need to get. A lot of people, their conception of Parkinson's disease is a tremor. Well, it could be an essential tremor too, and not everybody with Parkinson's has a rest tremor or has a tremor. And it is a rest tremor as opposed to the essential tremor. There's the festinating gait. That's when people keep moving their feet and they can't turn very easily. It makes them more susceptible to falls. And as I'll speak about later, we also have festinating speech. And I'll deal with that, explain to you how we can slow that down, how we can address that. You have the pin rolling that you'll see, the freezing. Many of you may have that freezing. Again, you can have freezing with speech and freezing with swallow. Again, it's at rest. So you don't have to worry. You'll have nurses that are, and I don't want to say anything negative about people who are passing medication, and if the person freezes, they'll be terrified because they have to give that medication. But if the person is frozen, they're frozen. And then they'll say, well, we've got to change the texture. I do swallowing, I'm speech. We don't have to change the texture. If you're frozen, you're frozen. It's not going to go down until you unfreeze, and it won't take long. You just have to be patient. And so I encourage people, so much of this is educating. We have to be an inclusive world. We have to educate. We have to know more. We have to share more. The last one on this slide is dystonia and dyskinesia. Dystonia is a tightening of the muscles, almost like a strained strangle type, as opposed to the dyskinesia, which is movement, the kinetic movement, which is what you Michael J. Fox. Next slide, please. And the list goes on. Now, those are some of the motor symptoms that are better recognized. We also have non-motor symptoms. And the important thing about the motor symptoms to note, and as the physicians are now admitting, that some of these can be more, what shall I say? I don't want to say discouraging, and more of a problem for people to cope with than the motor symptoms themselves. Let's talk about constipation for starters. That generally starts many, many years before you even get a diagnosis, okay? And then there's the fatigue and the flat affect, you don't smile, you don't use your face for expression. We're going to talk about that going further on in the program. Depression and demoralization, there's a distinction between that. They don't emphasize that enough in the medical field. Depression is a medical diagnosis. It's generally mediated by medication or by talk therapy. Demoralization is what most of us feel on a bad day. It's that loss of self-esteem, that discouragement, that, something just didn't go right and we're bummed out by it. And that can be treated a whole lot differently. You don't take pills for demoralization. You have to work on it. You socialize, you keep yourself active. And the doctors are now discussing writing actual scripts for how many times people should socialize per week and how many times people should exercise, being more explicit in what people can do and should do in order to be better, to overcome that. You're probably familiar with apathy. That's a general disinterest. It can be more pronounced in the presence of chronic illness. Parkinson's isn't the only one that can result in apathy. Anxiety, the concern, the worry about something that's going to happen, excessive worry about something that might befall you. And I've got in parenthesis anhedonia. I don't know if you're familiar with that word. Anhedonia means total loss of pleasure. And this is very common, particularly in those who are providing care, because people are so worn out. They're so exhausted. They're trying so hard. They've got the love opposite the frustration, and they're just beat. And you get to the point after year after year after year, again, not only with Parkinson's, with anybody who's caring for somebody. Think about the dementias, for example, that they know they just don't have that ability to have pleasure anymore. It's been so long. So that's something else we have to watch out for. You have changes in vision. I have sat in on lectures by very well-known physicians and had someone pose a question. It was a Parkinson's group, and I was sitting between two doctors, and somebody posed a question and said, does Parkinson affect your vision? And the physician said, no, not that I know of. Well, we know that's not true. The best thing to say is, I have no experience with it. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. All right. And so we do know that with the absence of dopamine, the eyes are dry. You're not blinking. All these things that you used to do automatically, burp, blink, breathe, you have to be mindful of doing that now, much more so than if you didn't have Parkinson's. You have the dry eye, and you can also have the double vision. So these are all related. You can have illusions, delusions, hallucination. Illusion is misinterpreting something that is. looking at a light post and saying, oh, isn't that moon bright, when you're looking squarely into the lamp itself. Or delusion, misinterpreting something that isn't. For example, they took my handbag. They took my keys. Somebody stole this. And then hallucination is, of course, any of the five sensory inputs that you perceive but are not there. I don't know if you all know that you can hallucinate in all five senses. You can see things, you can smell. We think about it frequently, of seeing things, seeing people, seeing objects. With Parkinson's, I was told by Dr. Fadam Jad, who was I heard this in a lecture he gave many years ago. He's working with the company who produces Nuplazid. He said in males who have hallucinations, it's generally a paranoia. They're afraid that another man is on their turf, somebody's encroaching on their turf, and it's more of a paranoia. Whereas women are more inclined to see animals and children and positive things, but things that clearly are not there. And the other thing I've noticed, and I noticed from dealing with my folks, my Parkinson family, as I refer to them, that many of those with Parkinson's, with PD, that are experiencing hallucinations, they know that they're hallucinating. I had a lady that used to say to me, boy, was I busy this weekend. I had so much company. And I'd look at her and I'd say, for real? And she just point to her head. But, she knew what was going on. So it's not all bad. Next slide, please. Non-motor symptoms continue and the list goes on. We've got constipation, cognitive shift, the fragmented sleep pattern, okay, the REM sleep disorder. They don't talk enough about pseudobulbar affect. Now, this can affect anybody who's got any disease, any diagnosis with a neurogenic basis. It can be stroke, it can be TBI, even people with intellectual and developmental challenges. Pseudobulbar effect is unprovoked crying or laughter. And I've had situations where people were in the group and a woman started crying and she was so embarrassed, she asked her husband to take her out. I had 20 people in the room. I couldn't run after her, as I have done before with others, and to say, don't worry, it's all part and parcel. We get it. We had a gentleman that used to laugh and cry at the same time as he was speaking, and he didn't even know he was doing it. So it's out there. Anosmia is the loss of your olfactory, the sense of smell. I think probably that comes on very early, and people aren't even aware of it, that it can be symptomatic of Parkinson's. Not necessarily, but it can be symptomatic. And then, of course, the excessive saliva, which people refer to as drooling or seepage. We know that there are ways to mediate that, sialorrhea. But remember that a wet mouth is better than a dry mouth. It's safer for your gums. It's safer for your oral cavity. Next slide. Okay, and we'll get to the last two. These are the biggies for me, okay, as a speech pathologist. Dysphagia, which is difficulty eating and swallowing. And remember that if you're working on your voice, those are the same muscles that are used in swallowing. If you have specific swallowing issues, you may need additional treatment, and that is also available. But at least know that you get a twofer. When you work on your voice and loudness, you're also working on those muscles that are involved in swallowing. And of course, we have vocal changes. We have the breathy voice, gravelly or harsh, lack of clarity, mumbling, the volume goes down. You may develop a stutter or perseveration. You may slur, and of course, the monotone. And the beauty of all this is, now that I've shared this, is that this is my list as complete as I can have it. I've got it at the moment, and there might be more symptomology, but nobody's going to have everything. As we say, if you've seen one person with Parkinson's, you've seen one person with Parkinson's. But the beauty of it is, I'm going to show you how to do things to make it better, free. Okay? How does that sound? Next slide. Okay, we can stop. You can clear the slides. And I'm going to move on. All right. One of the most important things about Parkinson's, about anything that we do, is word choice. All right, the words that we use. And the most important words are the words that we use, our silent language, the language that we speak to ourselves. Okay, we can talk ourselves into and out of anything we want. So it's important to be positive. Uh, there's a difference between I'll try and I can't. I always tell people, never say senior moment. Say, give me a moment. Give me a moment. Let me think about it. All right. Instead of, I don't know, I forget, I can't remember. You do that enough, you really won't remember. So it's important to say, give me a moment. You can all try that. Give me a moment. You'd be surprised how that calms you down and it slows the adrenaline and the cortisol flow. And it works. It's got a neurologic underpinning. I'm not selling you fried air, honest. Uh, in in rehab, I remember walking in. I thank you for that laughter, that smile. Smiling is good, everybody. I'm going to get into that big time. It was just National Smile Day on Tuesday. Did you all know that? But when you've got Parkinson's, you got to practice smiling every day. Trust me on that. We were in rehab one day and I walked in and one of the people in the gym was saying, no, 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 I can't do that. I can't do that. I just walked in. I was just coming on duty and, open mouth, the words came out. And I said, oh my, did we have not yet? We don't have not yet here. We don't ever have not. We don't have I can't. We have not yet. You never say, I can't do this. You say not yet. And they looked at me like I was out of my mind. So this was a very complex medical case. This young man um, had been found sleeping in his car. It just a tragedy on so many accounts. And I worked with PT together with this gentleman, and we got him to change his way of looking at things. And every time he'd say, I can't, I just look at him crossways and he'd say, not yet, not yet. Okay, not yet. And I'm pleased to tell you that a year later, he came strutting back in looking like he just stepped off the cover of GQ. He drove his Cadillac over. He came in just to stop by to say hello. So it's the power of the words that you use. For example, when my communication club, my group I refer to as the family. So if you hear me talk about the family, that's my team, the family. We have t-shirts and everything in orange because orange is my color. And when we do introductions, they don't say, they never use past tense. Nobody's a was. None of you is a was. You're all living, breathing. You're all here. You're not was's. You're very much active. You may be retired. You may be a former. You may be a recovering lawyer, but you're very much alive. So try to stay away from using past tense. Don't talk about used to was. Okay, talk about what you are today. I am. It's very important to reinforce that and to keep your spirits going. That's how you avoid that demoralization. You're in the process of developing new identities, okay? Not just slamming the book. So remember, it's important to move forward and don't ever use the phrase never mind when you're speaking, because this is all about speech today. I tell everybody never use it and never accept it from anybody else. If you're struggling to say something, and sometimes people they're trying to be kind, they get a little nervous and they'll say, well, never mind. Has that happened to anybody? Never mind. And say, nobody's admitting. I'm not true confessions. I'm not going to hold you. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands. But say, but I do mind. I do mind. Give me a moment. Please give me a moment. I can tell you. Okay, it's important to encourage yourself to rise to the challenge. Don't let people discourage you just because they're nervous. And that's one of the biggest problems in dealing with Parkinson's because people don't get it. For most people, their conception of Parkinson's, unless they live with, love, or care for someone with Parkinson's, their conception, yeah, I know Parkinson's, that's a tremor. Huh. Would that it be only the tremor, right? They have no clue. And people, I believe that people are basically good. They want to help. They just don't know how. And then they get nervous and they get scared. And then the absence of knowing what to do and the fear of doing the wrong thing, they do nothing. And the first step being that they distance themselves, which is one of the worst things you can do. People need to socialize. They need to continue their lives. Am I right or wrong? I'm not getting any fee. Okay, okay, good. Not every now and then. Okay, let me know that you're with me. All right. You haven't gone to sleep on me, or I'm not boring you. Okay. All right. So the other thing that's important is humor and laughter. Humor and laughter is so important. You can't, I think it was Charlie Chaplin. I wouldn't have expected this from him, but Charlie Chaplin made the comment that you can't make peace with sadness, with disappointment until you can look it square in the eyes and laugh at it. So, by way of example, and I'm authorized to use this, I had two very good friends. Now I have one. Father, son, they had the link gene in Parkinson's. The son is a retired cardiac anesthesiologist. He was diagnosed at 38 years old, retired cardiac anesthesiologist. His father was a world-renowned oncologist and hematologist, diagnosed at 72. He just died last year of cancer, not Parkinson's. You don't die with Parkinson's. But before John was diagnosed, they used to say, gee, you're clumsy, gee, you're clumsy. And then he said, the day after I was diagnosed, I became inspirational. And I thought that was so beautiful. I went from clumsy to inspirational in 24 hours because of a diagnosis. You can't change what is, but you can change how you deal with it. You can grieve just so long, and then you got to pick it up and move on, because the world goes forward. It doesn't stop for anyone. And you've got a lot more life to give. You just have to find the way that you're going to do it. Look at my friend Jeff. So then the father's diagnosed at 72, many, almost, I don't know, 30 years later, 20 years later. And he looks at John and he says, geez, John, I'm sorry. If I had known, I never would have had you. And this was the joke that went on in the family. But it's that concept of being able to look it square in the eyes and just say, it's, as they say, I've got Parkinson's, it doesn't have me, right? So at this point, I would like everybody to take a deep breath, and I want everybody to go, ay, ay, ay. Okay, remember to open your mouth real wide. You've heard about CBD. I'm not talking about drugs here. I do CBD. That means close your lips, breathe, and then voice. Okay, so you're going to shoulders down. You're going to breathe in deeply. Your lips are together. Inhale, open your mouth and go, ay, ay, ay. Fantastic. Now we're going to do it one more time. And on the third time, I want you to just freeze, for lack of a better word. I want you to hold that pause and go, ay, ay, ay. Everybody. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, good, good, good. Fantastic. Okay, that's your cue from now on. You don't say cheese, you don't say sex when they take pictures. Everybody says, ay, ay, ay. Okay? All right. And if you do that, it reduces the wrinkles up here and the crow's feet here. You just relax and just keep your mouth, that's the one time you can open your mouth. Ay, ay, ay. Okay? And I'm going to tell you why it's so important. Do you know what the smile does for you? Do you have any idea what happens when you smile? I had a patient once who he was a foreign envoy, and he didn't appreciate my cueing. His issue was not Parkinson's. He didn't appreciate my cueing on smiling because he thought I was giving him a behavioral directive. He didn't appreciate it. And I said, understood. I said, are you able to pucker? Oh, he could pucker real good. And I said, great. Now can you retract? And I said, good, perfect. Now can you do that 4 more times? Okay. Change your words, change your world. Okay. I couldn't get him to smile, but I could get him to retract. So let me tell you what happens when you retract or smile. Okay. And you may know this. All right. But hopefully there'll be someone for whom this will be new information. When you retract like that, okay, you're releasing serotonin. Did you all know that? Serotonin is a good, good. Thank you, Bonnie, for that nod. The when you retract like that, serotonin is a neurotransmitter and it's mood altering. It goes up to the prefrontal cortex, which is your mood control center. Okay, so it puts you in a good mood even if you don't want to be in one. All right. Sometimes you'll be with people and you know you'll be joking and you'll say smile and somebody's in a really bad mood and they'll go, and then they crack up and they laugh. You've won the battle because at least they've gotten that retraction going. It also releases natural endorphins, which are natural painkillers, okay? Which is why we talk about the grimace, and everybody thinks when you grimace, you look like that, but that's a whole lot of work to go through. But if you're in pain, you might go like this. If you have to move and you hurt, you go like this sometimes, do you not? Okay, what you're doing is retracting. That's the dog equivalent of eating grass. When dogs have an upset stomach, they eat grass. When we hurt, we will go like that because innately we know that we're going to feel better. But the reason we feel better is because we're releasing endorphins, which are natural painkillers. Okay? So you can take that to the bank. That's for real. All right? Now, the beauty of this is stop and think about it. Smiling laughter is so good for you. It's good for your cardiovascular function. It's good for stress. It minimizes stress. It's good for your mood. It's just all over healthier to be able to smile. And think about it. You don't need a prescription. There's no copay. There's no drug interaction. There's not any potential for overdosing. It's readily accessible. You can have as much as you want whenever you want, and it's free. It doesn't get much better than that, does it? So on those days when you're feeling miserable and it's not a good day, you just, every time I tell people, every time you go into the bathroom, okay, before you leave, check your smiler. Make sure that the person in the mirror is smiling back at you, okay? And if you don't like what you see, fix it, okay? It's very important to do that. You'd be surprised how something as simple as retracting your lips, it invites people in. It just makes life a whole lot easier. And I learned this a long time ago. I was introduced to the Parkinson world about 25 years ago when they asked me to do a segment on television on swallowing. And they asked me if I wanted to bring anybody else in with me. And I said, I'd like to invite somebody from the Parkinson's Foundation to join me because swallowing can be an issue. So I contacted Ellen Kennedy, whom I didn't know very well, but I had this opportunity and I figured, let me share the wealth. I did not realize that Ellen Kennedy, who was then the executive director of the Parkinson's Foundation, the National Capital Area, I didn't realize she had Parkinson's. She was traveling all over the world, uh, fundraising and educating, and didn't even realize it. And she told me that for every person that has Parkinson's, 4 people are affected, a minimum of 4 people. Stop and think about that. A minimum of 4 people are going to be affected by the Parkinson's. And she said that one of the most important things for people to learn to do, especially couples, everybody, and if you're, roommates, whatever, the most important thing is to smile because she said that one day her husband was all excited. This is how she told the story. She said, one day my husband was all excited and he told me, I got tickets for the show. I got tickets for the show. And not only that, I also got reservations at that restaurant you wanted to go to. And she said, gee, that's great. And at that point, he lost it. And he said, isn't there anything I ever do anymore that pleases you? And she jumped back. She was so taken aback. She had no idea how flat her affect was. People have to be taught how to, not everybody can receive a gift gracefully. We know that. It's not a natural thing. And she had no idea how flat she was because of the dopamine, because these are all automatic things. As I said, breathing, burping, swallowing, blinking, those are all things that go automatically. We call them autonomic responses. And that autonomic response is triggered by the dopamine. But if dopamine's in short supply, things don't unfold the way you want them to. So that's why you have to make a special effort to smile, everybody. Come on. I'm seeing long faces. You're stressing me out here. Okay. All right. Good. Good. All right. And then you'll hear them, you'll hear the physicians, the medical community. Am I going too fast? Am I clear? I hope I'm not stumbling over any words. Okay. Now you'll hear the physicians say again and again and again, exercise, exercise, exercise. Well, I say exercise and socialize because I know it works because nobody wants to be alone. All right. But what they don't tell you is, they say exercise and people rush off to PT, maybe OT. Okay. Your body, your brain, and your voice. You have to do all three: exercise, body, brain, and voice. All right. They're all important. And the reason the voice is really important is this. Repeat after me. If people can't hear you, they assume you don't know. And they treat you differently. We're not going to let that happen, not on my watch. Okay. So that's why I feel so strongly about developing your voices. In fact, my tagline in business is giving voice to your voice. Did you know that? You probably wouldn't know that. I don't even know if I have it on the slide, but that's my tagline, giving voice to your voice. So I talk about the LSD of communication. Again, it's not a drug, not a drug. Okay. It's how you look, what you say, and what you do when you're trying to share information with another person. And that's what communication is by definition. It's an exchange of information. And you don't have to do it with the voice alone. You can roll your eyeballs real loudly and let people know how you feel. But you can use your whole body, and it's important to use your whole body. So I have these communication clubs that I do 3 times a week online. You're all welcome to come to them. They're virtual. We now have people coming from 12 different states. All right. So the first thing we work on is loudness. Then we work on resonance. I refer to it as the bourbon 2-finger. Because if you want 2 fingers, you want 2 fingers like that, not like that. The bourbon 2-finger. You got it. Then we work on clarity. Oh, the whole world needs to work on clarity, let me tell you. I'm watching all the American movies with captions because people tend to slur a lot. Have you noticed that? You can't understand. The volume is low. They don't enunciate. There's no diction. The only people who articulate and who have good diction in my Parkinson's family, because we work it, we milk it, and we work at it. Then we use vocal variety. Vocal variety, I've got some great exercises for vocal variety, because when you have Parkinson's, together with the foot affect, you can also develop a monotone and you can sound a bit like bot language, like a robot. So it's important to work at opening your mouth and getting a little bit of rhythm and a little variation, expression. All right. And then the final thing is using your whole body, not up here, not in front of your face, but, winking or smiling or gesturing like, oh no, again, are you serious? That can't be. Use your whole body to communicate. Now, by way of creativity, one day on just a whim, because these things come to me when we're working together, you all heard of Wide World of Wrestling, right? I mean, I'm sure the majority is pasted to the tube for, broadcasts of Wide World of Wrestling. But it just came to me because of the funny handles. So I had everybody decide what handle they wanted to be known as the Wide World of Wrestling. And I had to explain it to some of the ladies, especially some of the ladies who aren't, from this culture. But they got into it and they got into the rim rhyme and they came up with some wild handles on Wide World of Wrestling. And so we used to do a roll call and they'd have to respond with their Wide World of Wrestling name. Then one day I said to one of the people here, that's the vine. You all know Tarzan? They knew Tarzan. I handed them the vine and I said, have a swing. What are you going to say as you take off? And they looked at me and they said, move that tree. They got creative and they used voice. and they laughed. We get into all kinds of crazy things. And the other thing was nursery rhymes. A friend of mine, the husband of a friend of mine, is a lawyer. And when he was in law school, his law professor was teaching them how to do closing arguments. And to teach them how to do closing arguments and be persuasive, he assigned them all nursery rhymes. And her husband had Mary had a little lamb. Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. And everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. All right? So he interpreted it. He said, Mary had this tiny, itty bitty little lamb, cutest little thing, tiny, tiny, so adorable. And everywhere Mary went, this lamb went with her to get the idea. The other day, we were talking about expression, and one of the members of the family yelled out, Mary had a little lamb. It's just so good to get people to remember and to work together. And it's fun. It's fun. So with that, I'm going to tell you, I told you my John story. I told you my Jeff story. I'm going to tell you my Sid story. I hope I can do this straight because it's a very emotional story. I had a gentleman in one of my classes when we were meeting in person, and his wife was blind and deaf. He was taking care of his grandchildren and his daughter, who was not married at that time or had separated from her husband. He had a lot on his plate. This man was always busy. He had the best yellow phone, and he was a thespian. Oh, could he act? He could go into one character after the other. He was so funny. His daughter sent me a note one day, and she said the nurses were laughing. They smiled in the hospital. They loved him, how hard he worked with the oral motor exercises you gave him. They would hear him as they went up and down the hall on rounds, practicing his volume and his expression, because his only goal in life was to be able to tell his wife that he loved her loud enough so that she could hear him. The daughter wrote to tell me that her father died the day before. He had cancer. I didn't know that. And she said, but that was the last thing my mother heard. I love you, thanks to you. So that's, Nancy's getting as choked up as I am. That's why I do what I do. So with that, the most important thing, that's not a downer, it's supposed to be an upper. I'll take some water. The most important thing we can do is educate others. Because when people don't know what to do, as I said, they do nothing for fear of doing something wrong. So we have to put them at ease. It's not that you don't have enough going on, but you got to put them at ease, right? So to help educate the general public, this is going to make you laugh, guaranteed to make you smile. I'm going to share with you, because Eden asked me to do this a long time ago. I'm going to share with you the Parkinson's rap song. Are you ready? And the whole purpose is to educate, okay? And this is on YouTube. Eden has the link. I can send it to you again. We started out by saying April is Parkinson's Awareness Month. How much do you know? Well, we have a message for you. And they started out by saying, we're the Parkinson's rappers, and we're here to say, we don't let Parkinson's stand in our way. Exercise, socialize, exercise, socialize. Take advantage of the rhythm. Take advantage of the rhythm. The rhythm will help you, because you can get that festinating stuttering with speech, okay? Rhythm and tapping helps you. So here you go. Do you want to do it with me? Should we take everybody off mic? Everybody, go on mic. Don't be, if you're able to get on, if you're able to take yourself off mute, take yourself off mute, and we'll do it line by line together, okay? All
Kelly can
right?
unmute us. Yep.
Okay, go ahead, unmute. All right, that'll be my next t-shirt, unmute. Here we go. Repeat after me. When people can't hear you,
When people
People
can't
can't
hear
hear
you.
you.
People
They
can't
assume you don't know.
They
They'll
assume
assume
you don't
know.
know.
It's all up there,
It's
It's
all
all
up
up there.
out there.
but the voice won't go.
but
the
the voice
voice
won't go.
If you give us a moment,
If
If
you
you
give us a
moment,
moment,
we'll say the word,
we'll
say
say the
the
word.
and we hope you'll wait,
And we
we'll
hope
help
you'll
you
wait.
because we want to be heard.
Because we
want
want
to
to
be
be heard.
Times we don't smile.
At times we don't smile.
People think we're not there.
People think
think
we're not there.
It's the Parkinson's mask.
It's
The Parkinson's mask.
Don't sell it, everybody. Not that we don't care.
It's
Not
not that we
that
don't
you
care.
don't care.
You might know the tremor,
You might
Right
know
now,
the tremor.
The tremor.
shake but aren't cold.
She
shake,
our
but
cold.
But not everyone has this,
But not
Not
everyone
everyone
has
has
this.
as you may or not know.
As you may or may not know.
Oh.
Fatigue is an issue.
Fatigue is an
Fatigue is
issue.
an issue.
We have so much to say.
We have so
much
much to say.
Let's check if we're better.
Check it
Let's
out.
check it
We're better.
By night or by
Why
day?
not?
by night
By
and
night
by day.
or by day.
Sometimes we go fast.
Sometimes we go
Sometimes
fast.
we go fast.
Sometimes we go slow.
Sometimes
we go
we go
slow.
slow.
With Parkinson's disease,
With
Parkinson's disease.
it's a challenge, you know?
It's a challenge, you know.
Sometimes we just freeze.
Sometimes
we
we
just
just
freeze.
freeze.
Body won't go.
Body won't go.
So we learn to be patient.
So we learn
Learn to be patient.
When it stops or it slows.
when it
Stops
stops
or
or
it
slows.
slows.
Might take a bit longer.
It might take
Take
a
a
bit
bit
longer
longer.
To process or think.
To process or think.
Just give us a moment.
Just give us
Give us a moment.
We need time to speak.
We need time
To
speak.
Wherever we go
Wherever
Wherever we go,
go.
and whatever we try
and
wherever
we
we
try.
try.
depends upon if
Depends upon if
a body complies.
Our body
body
complies.
Isolation's the culprit.
isolation.
Friends don't come near.
Friends don't
come
come near.
They don't seem to get it.
They don't seem to get it.
Then they steer clear.
They steer clear.
Embarrassed, afraid, they don't know what to say.
Embarrassed.
They
They
don't know
don't
what
know
to
what
say.
to say.
I can tell you, just don't let our friendship fade away.
Just
Just
let
don't
our
let our
friendship
friendship fade away.
We're sharing these thoughts
We're sharing these thoughts
to help you see
to help
You
see
that we're the same people
that we're the
We're
same
the same
people
living with PD.
living
with
with
PD.
Parkinson's
Parkinson's
is what we have,
is what we
have.
have.
not who we are.
Not
Who we are.
Nicely done. What did you think about that?
Yay!
You like that? Okay. I think that's Parkinson's 101 in a nutshell, right? And we do everything with education now. In honor of the Beatles' 60th anniversary, we're working on a PD tribute to the Beatles songbook. All you need is air. Da, 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 da. All you need is air. Obla-dee, obla-da, life goes on, even working sons. Okay, so that's just a few. Stay tuned, stay tuned. We haven't recorded that yet, and we also have holiday songs on the record. I do this at night in my free time. Anyway, as I said, we do the communication club 3 times a week. If anybody's interested, we can give you information on that, share that with you.
We did have somebody ask about that. Aside from the website, they just go to the website? Is there something else they should be doing to get the
Okay,
communication club?
I hope I can share this. I am under contract as a consultant to the Parkinson's Foundation of the National Capital Area. That's PFNCA. If you send me a note, I will give you the website. It's parkinsonfoundation.org. We're the orange one, not the turquoise one. And most of the things we do, everything we do is in the area, in the Virginia, Maryland, the district, because we have people from all over the country, right? Fantastic, because I've got 12 states represented. That gives me another 38. So bring it on. Bring it on. We got to get everybody online. They asked me if I wanted to hold the numbers on my programs. And I said, no, I don't hold numbers and I don't do wait lists. I said, bring them on, as many as we can get, because it's important to be together. The socialization is so important. And I've had people comment, one of the gentlemen who comes in from Philadelphia, he said, this got me through the pandemic. Another gentleman who's a physician said, I come because for the hour that I'm here, I completely forget that I have Parkinson's. So it's a really nice way to be with other people who are sharing similar situations. You can open it up and have conversation if you want to ask questions. And we do a lot of vocal exercise, a lot of communication. We smile and laugh a lot too. So with reference to that, with reference to PD, and my call to action for you is, okay, do not use Parkinson's disease as an excuse. The change is an opportunity. Nothing is all good or all bad. This is an opportunity, albeit not one you wanted, but it's an opportunity to learn how to do things differently and to teach other people, just like Jeff did. There's so much that you can do. And remember, always active tense. Never, ever give up. I have to tell you one quick story about this is very important because it is the mission statement that frames everything that I do. When I was born, I was paralyzed at birth. They broke, my mother was in labor 67 and a half hours, for those of you who have children, okay, back in 1953. Anyway, it was a very traumatic birth. I was breached. They broke both arms, crushed my chest, told my mother that there would be brain damage. And so the joke in the family for years has been, who knows what would have happened if that hadn't happened? She might have been a contender, right? But in any case, my mother was a professional. She was a ballet dancer. And so she put me in dance right away because she wanted me to have bilateral arm movement, except I was horrifically frightened. Oh, I was very shy. I am very shy by nature. You wouldn't know that, but I am shy. And it was just not a good thing, not a good thing at all. So that was it too. Then she brought me back later. And she came to my first recital where she was very much a personage, very well known. She was a protege. And as she sat there for all 60 minutes of my recital, as only a mother can do, and I gave new definition to horrendous in terms of the family reputation for dance. I wasn't bad. I was horrific. So when we left, as I walked out with my mother, I looked up at her blue eye smile, never missed a beat. Word choice. I looked up at her and I said, so how was it? It being my dancing. And she looked down at me, never missing a beat, and said, Susan, your potential for improvement is infinite. Of all the things she could have said, of all the words she could have used, of all the things parents use with their children to inspire them, incite them, rile them up, get them going, my mother chose to use those words. So that's what I'm telling you, that your potential for improvement is infinite. I've given you the word choice, okay? Change your words. You can also do A-E-I-O-U every morning. Look in the mirror Every time you're in the bathroom before you leave, make sure your smiler's working. Make sure that the face that's smiling back at you is the face you want to see, okay? You can do mahas, you can do your Tarzan calls, you can do the wide world of wrestling. Be creative. You can do the rap song, anything you want. Just be positive. Celebrate who you are, who you still are, who you will always be, only better, okay? Celebrate everything that you can do and be grateful. Remember, our potential for improvement is infinite. And with that, I want everybody to go, ay, 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 ay. Parkinson's, repeat. It's what I've got. It's not who I am. And I'd like to thank you for listening. And I'd like to thank Eden and Kelly for inviting me to be a part of this. I hope I see you online. Come to my communication club. Join the family. We've got all, we are family. I've got all my buddies with me. That's another one. There's just no end.
Somebody did say though, because we put everything in the chat. I do encourage everyone to save the chat because we did put a lot of information in it. If you click on the 3 dots next to the chat itself, it'll say more and you can save the chat. Someone did say, someone said to participate in Sing Loud too. That one website I put parkinsonfoundation.org in it says it's password protected. So I think people have to reach out to you to get the password. Is that correct?
Yes, I'll put them in touch with the company, with the foundation.
Okay. So just reach out to Susan. We did put her email in the chat. Susan at speakskill.com.
There's an annual fee, and I think it's something like $50, but that entitles you to attend everything. Mm-hmm. So like 5 classes a week in communication club, exercise online. They even do rock steady boxing online. They do all kinds of things. It's not my fee, it's the foundation fee, but it's what enables them to continue to do that. But that's how you get the password. But if you need any information, if you have any questions, critiques, criticisms, suggestions, don't hesitate to share, because our potential for improvement, mine too, is infinite. Okay. Any other questions now that we're open up? Thank you, Carol. Thank you for that. We have 67. Wow.
Yeah.
Anybody have any other questions? Anything to say? I leave it to you, Eden.
One thing I do, if you could just also explain real quick, because you kind of went through what is Tarzan? What does that do?
Okay. Tarzan is just to get people into the character. So like we have like power phrases. If anybody's done, yeah, she's got it. LSVT loud. If you're Tarzan and you're standing on a branch and somebody hands you a line and says swing, and you have one phrase to say before you pick it up and you go, what are you going to yell? Dear God, help, move that tree. Is there a net? One of the gentlemen said, where's Jane? And it's to get into the mood. It's about fun, and it's about being loud enough to be heard. It's not about yelling. We want you to be audible enough to have a good quality voice. Anything else? The Tarzan call, the wide world. These were just suggestions. I haven't put them in a book. I'll probably get some blowback on it. You never know. So did everybody smile? Everybody's laughing. It's upbeat, right? Didn't I promise? Did I deliver?
You did. That's, again, this is why I was like, she needs to do an NLO.
All right. Okay. I'm delighted. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And everyone, thank you for being with us today, sharing your time with us. Susan, thank you. I'm just always so happy when I get to hang out with you.
You know what we do before we leave? We always give, our group, we always give everybody a virtual hug. I'll show you how we sign off, okay? This is how we sign off. We're one for all. Repeat.
We're one for all.
All for one.
All for one.
We're better together.
We're better together.
Because we share.
Because we share.
And we care.
And we care
about each other.
about each other.
Parkinson's
Parkinson's
is what we have.
is what we have.
It's not who we are.
It's not who we are.
Then we give each other a virtual hug and we wait for the next meeting. Okay.
Well, we also have a tradition at Parkinson PMD Alliance, our wave of gratitude. Thank you so much for being with us, for inspiring us, for making us smile and laugh. And thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks for coming, everyone. Bye.